points and notes for 3.8 through 3.10. This is going to be a little different than we've done in the past, simply because we have a guest teacher today. But I've put some different videos on the PowerPoint or on the Google Slides as you are working through that. So there's going to be a video of me kind of talking you through this, and then there will be some slides where you just see some videos that I want to show you for each of the set of notes that we're dealing with. So right now, you can take 3 or 4 minutes and look up information about our iconic figure of the day today, Madam C.J. Walker, who you see right there. Take 3 or 4 minutes. At this point, the guest teacher can go ahead and pause the screen right here and let you look those up for 3 or 4 minutes, and then take a few moments, talk about Madam C.J. Walker, what you found, and then click back on and unpause this video, and I will continue our notes. All right. Hopefully you've paused and then unpaused, and so we are back talking about uplift ideologies. And I put all these things together: uplift ideologies, black women's rights and leadership, and black organizations and institutions. Put them all together because they all have a very similar thought process as they are looking to advocate for African American rights, both for women and how does the black community in the United States in the early 1900s start to differentiate themselves. There are certain ways in which African Americans during slavery were just trying to get out of slavery. That was the main point. And once that happened, and once Reconstruction, is destroyed, and once segregation starts to get put into place, then there becomes a bunch of different black voices speaking in different parts of the country and talking about ways in which to uplift the African American community around the United States. And so this set of notes is going to be dealing with all of the different ways in which people advocated for African American uplift and a way to bring the community as a whole into the forefront and push them forward. Social advancement, shall we say. So, again, different black leaders proposed different ideas on how to continue uplifting the race of African Americans. And we're going to start with example number 1 here. So this is Booker T. Washington. See him over there on the right. He advocated for a more industrial education, for training for people in like technical careers, and wanted people to achieve financial independence. For many people, he was an advocate for the poor, the lower class of African Americans who were struggling to make it, the sharecroppers, the people that we talked about at the end of Reconstruction, the sharecroppers, the people that weren't being treated fairly on the farms, the people that had to go back and work for the people who had enslaved their ancestors. So for many people, and for Booker T. Washington, right, this means staying in the South, not trying to move out of your current situation. And, we'll get there, but this, the criticism of Washington from people like W.B. Du Bois, who we read yesterday or 2 days ago, and who you will see in your FRQ practice, the criticism of him is that he is not pushing African Americans to achieve in the arts, for instance. He is not pushing African Americans to achieve in as much in political spaces. He is not pushing every African American to try to be as high in the social order as they can be. At least that's the criticism. I would think that Booker T. Washington wouldn't agree with that criticism, obviously. But that, as you're going to see here with one of his writings, that the criticism is that he's compromising with the white kind of Southern governments of the time and still continuing to do the things that Southern farmers and Southern legislators want black people to do. They need that continual force of black labor. And Booker T. Washington doesn't buck the system in that case. He tells, again, there's a category of Booker T. Washington that is, bloom where you're planted. If you are a farmer, be the best farmer you can be. If you are a technical worker, be the best technical worker that you can be. Push for those things. And so he didn't really force white Southern governments to really change that much, because he was an advocate for those poor laborers, the poor sharecroppers, and those type of things. Again, for our guest teacher, anytime if you still see students who are typing and I've kind of moved on, again, feel free to pause the video and leave the notes up on the board for people to take notes on. But if they are ready to go, you can just let the video keep playing. If not, just pause it really quickly or just scroll back just a little bit, and make sure that this stays up there for people to finish taking those notes. I'll give you a moment to finish taking those notes, and we will move on. So that's Booker T. Our second example is the person we read 2 days ago. His name is W.B. Du Bois, and as you can tell from his fancy mustache and goatee and very dapper clothing, that he is an advocate for a liberal arts education. This is what we would consider an education that pushes for African Americans and for students in general. Like most of you who are going to go to college later on in your life, you are going to go to a liberal arts education where they're going to require you to study multiple things. Right? If you're not a math person, you're going for a history degree, or you're going for whatever, you're still going to have to take a math class or two in college. If you are going as an engineer to college, you're still going to have to take a language arts or a literature class in college, and that's kind of trying to make people a well-rounded individual. That's what we would consider a liberal arts education, and also pushing for a huge amount of civil rights, right? So W.A.B. Du Bois is, as people are kind of climbing the social ladder, he also wants them to be pushing for civil rights in the system of government that has been built for kind of white America. Finding a way for African Americans of all shapes and sizes, of all intelligence levels, to find a way to become educated. Education, Du Bois would argue, is a way to higher paying jobs in any field. If you're going to be a farmer, you might as well be the best farmer you can be, and that might require you going to college, learning how some of the technical things that come with being a farmer, and pushing for changes in the way your farm runs or the way your farm works. And so I think he would advocate that even people who Booker T might consider not college material, that Du Bois would still advocate for that. The criticism of this, and I'm going to move my thing here. The criticism of this is that from what we know back of African Americans shortly after slavery, many of these people were not educated. They simply were not educated during the time of slavery, and people after that, there was very little chance for African Americans to educate themselves. And so going to college seems just like a bridge too far for a bunch of African American people who are sharecropping in the South and making literally pennies by doing that, by sharecropping. And so sending a kid to college, you have 3 or 4 kids that are in your household, and read several books about sharecropping, and sending your kids to college just seemed like a pipe dream for many people. Some of these people are so poor, and so college is just not in their wheelhouse of things that they consider to be possible. And many people who are in these kind of lower classes cling to people like Booker T because he at least identifies with them. He at least sees them as viable, real African Americans who are working kind of in the trenches, whereas the criticism of W.E.B. Du Bois as an intellectual is that, right, it sounds like at times he's looking down upon the people who are doing an honest day's work, right? He's looking down upon the day laborers and the sharecroppers, and he's looking down upon the people who are really making America and the South run. And so I think that that's a fair criticism of Du Bois. It might not be entirely accurate. Again, just like Booker T, I don't think that Du Bois would consider the criticisms of him to be entirely accurate, but there is a time and a place for advocating for everybody to go to college. But you also have to be realistic about the hopes and dreams of these people being just that, hopes and dreams, instead of actual reality. And so I think that's a fair criticism of Du Bois, but I think the two in combo, right, and I think that's when we look back at history, the two in combo really are the two most popular voices for African Americans, and they cover a vast majority of African Americans. There are people who gravitate to Du Bois because of his focus on liberal arts and because of his focus on art and science and medicine, and there are people who gravitate to Booker T because it seems like he sees the poor people. He is paying attention to what poor people go through on a daily basis, poor African Americans. Again, as with each of these, feel free to pause if students are still typing, but I think we should move on. All right, our next strategy, I'm going to move back down here or over here. Our next strategy, and example 3, would be black women's leadership. And so you see Nannie Helen Burroughs up in the top right there. You see Anna Julia Cooper. They are promoting suffrage for women. So at the same time that Du Bois and Booker T are promoting African Americans in general, really their focus is on men who are doing most of the out-of-home work and focusing on civil rights for African American men. And as the early 1900s come around, we know that in 1919, women get the right to vote. Nannie Helen Burroughs, Anna Julia Cooper, they're part of that process, along with a bunch of white suffragettes. Black women suffragettes are also a huge push towards women gaining the right to vote, and once they gain the right to vote, to continue to try to educate women. We had a couple of sources that I chose not to give you from the thing. If you read Anna Julia Cooper here, I took it to Mr. Chandler and had him read one of the sources, and it is a really tough read. She is using French terms. She is super well educated, and almost to the point where I don't think that normal mildly educated or lower class African Americans would really read Anna Julia Cooper and be able to understand her, because it was really hard for me to when I started reading her a couple years ago was I started teaching this class. So again, suffrage means voting rights. Suffrage for all women equals voting rights. Education, their focus on education for women, especially black women. The founding of schools for women, for girls. There is a new organization called the National Association of Colored Women. If you go back to, who was it? Why Sit Here and Die? The essay and speech that we read a while back. There was advocates for women to be educated in those, even as far back as the mid-1800s as well. So this has been a strategy that's been around for a long time. There is a push for women, black women, to continue their role in religion, an increased role of women in the church, to get rid of gender stereotypes in the church, to allow women to be people who could participate in leadership roles in the church. And those are, some of the new pushes for black women in the church. And now, as you get to the criticisms, with Du Bois and Booker T, they're both kind of opposite sides of the same coin. They're both pushing for racial uplift. They're doing it in very different ways. And so their criticism of each other is basically the opposite of what they're doing. I'm doing this, and my criticism is don't do this. I'm doing this, and my criticism is don't do this. With women, it's I put this down, and I hope, if I were there, I could walk you through all these. But they're all the typical criticisms of strong women at any point in history. And you could probably list them off, right? Too emotional. Women can't think in the same vein as men when it comes to leadership roles in the legislature or in political roles, and so all of those kind of typical criticism, they're the weaker sex when it comes to constitution, and when it comes to physical ability. All of those same criticisms come around with people like Nanny Helen Burroughs. You would not be surprised if you read somebody who was criticizing these women. You'd be like, oh yeah, well, that's the same criticisms that they said of Kamala Harris, and that's the same criticism they made of Hillary Clinton when she ran for president. And those are the same criticisms that they make of, and you name the women along in history, and that's what you're seeing here as a criticism of some of these leaders, right? All the typical things that men say about women when they don't want them in positions of power. Again, push pause if students still need to write, still need to work through some of these things. I'm also posting this on the Google Classroom if people need the notes. All right, so moving on. The example number 4. Example number 4 is African American writers, poets, musicians, scientists, people who, with their own excellence, they're not doing this, they're not writing about their own excellence, they're just being excellent in any of the fields that are before them. So musicians, writers, poets, you're going to start seeing some of these people come up in like the Harlem Renaissance. Next week we're going to start our Harlem Renaissance project, and we're going to talk about Langston Hughes and Zora Neale Hurston. We're going to talk about Duke Ellington and all these people who choose to be just excellent in the field that they are choosing to be a part of. James Weldon Johnson, who you're going to see here, and J. Rosamond Johnson, the people who wrote Lift Every Voice and Sing, which hopefully you're going to get played for you in just a moment. It's like a 3-minute video, but it has a really nice introduction by Anthony Mackie right before one of the AFC championships, I think, a couple years ago. But these people, they're not out there writing. James Weldon Johnson and Duke Ellington and Langston Hughes aren't out there writing and saying this is the way black people need to progress. They are just out there doing it. They are progressing themselves through their art, through their music, through their science, and they are hoping to be examples to everybody else of what it looks like when African Americans achieve things at a high level. And so I think that these are the people that are deeds over words, that they are action over talking, and don't do what I say, watch what I do. And I think that that's a really strong strategy as well. And I think none of these work without the other. You don't really have W.E.B. Du Bois unless you have a Booker T. Washington. You don't have these strong writers and poets without people like W.E.B. Du Bois advocating for strong liberal arts educations and institutions like we're going to talk about at the end of the notes, maybe tomorrow, depending on how we get to them today. You don't have those things unless you have all of these kind of working in concert. You don't have these men being really strong figures for pushing for African American rights without women also kind of coming alongside those men and pushing for their own rights, pushing for their own right to vote and right to be heard. And so I think that those are, we need to understand that all of these examples are really good examples individually, but they work really well in concert with each other. At this point, what I'd like our guest teacher to do is just move on to the next slide. So this video is going to end here in just a second. And I would like you to be shown the Lift Every Voice and Sing by Alicia Keys. So that's going to be on the next slide.